What if the greatest love story you will ever live is not with someone who walks into your life, but with the person who has been with you since your very first breath? Once upon a quiet moment, before promises were made to anyone else, there was a heart learning how to survive. That heart belonged to you. Self-love is the story that begins long before romance, long before heartbreak, long before someone calls your name with affection. It is the love that stays when everyone else leaves, the love that holds your hand in the dark when no one is watching. Self-love is not arrogance wearing a crown. It is humility wrapped in kindness. It is waking up every day and choosing yourself, even when the world has taught you to abandon your own feelings for approval, applause, or acceptance. It is looking into the mirror and seeing not perfection, but worth. In every love story, there is a moment of realization. A moment when the heart understands what it deserves. Self-love is that moment. It is when you stop begging for love in places where you are only tolerated, and start building a home within yourself where peace is always invited. Self-love is learning to forgive yourself for the chapters you wrote while you were still learning the language of life. It is understanding that growth is not betrayal of who you were, but devotion to who you are becoming. It is choosing rest without guilt, boundaries without fear, and healing without apology. When you love yourself, you do not close your heart to others. You open it wisely. You stop confusing attachment with love, pain with passion, and sacrifice with loyalty. Self-love teaches you that real love should feel safe, not heavy, gentle, not draining, warm, not wounding. In the end, self-love is the most honest romance of all. Because when the lights go out, when the applause fades, when the promises break, you are still there, breathing, believing, and learning to love yourself a little more each day. Before anyone ever held your hand, there was a heartbeat learning how to hold itself together. Before love arrived with flowers, promises, or poetic words, there was a quiet relationship unfolding inside you. Self-love is the first love story because it begins without witnesses, without applause, without validation. It starts in silence, in moments where you choose to stay instead of running from your own feelings. This love story does not begin with excitement, it begins with survival. It is written in nights when you learned to comfort yourself, in mornings when you woke up even though your heart felt tired, in days when you smiled for the world while whispering strength to yourself. Self-love is the relationship that grows while you are still learning who you are, loving you even when you feel unfinished. Like every love story, it has misunderstandings. There are times when you doubt yourself, when you believe you are not enough, when you chase love outside because you have not yet learned how to give it within. But the first love waits patiently. It does not abandon you when you make mistakes, it stays, reminding you that growth is part of devotion. Self-love is learning to listen to your inner voice the way lovers listen closely to each other. It is noticing when you are hurting and responding with care instead of criticism. It is choosing honesty over pretending, rest over exhaustion, and healing over denial. In this love story, you are both the one who feels and the one who protects. Every other love enters your life after this one, influenced by how well you have learned to love yourself. If this first love is gentle, you will recognize gentleness in others. If it is respectful, you will no longer tolerate disrespect. Self-love sets the standard, teaching your heart what it deserves before it ever accepts less. This first love story teaches you that you are not incomplete without someone else. You are whole before the meeting, before the confession, before the promise. When you love yourself, you stop searching for someone to save you, because you have already learned how to stand with yourself in every storm. Self-love is the romance that does not fade with time, beauty, or circumstance. It grows deeper as you grow older, wiser, and more aware of your own worth. It is the love that teaches you how to receive love without fear and give love without losing yourself. There comes a moment in every love story when the heart realizes it has been giving too much while receiving too little. In the love story of self-love, that moment is gentle but powerful. Choosing yourself without guilt is not an act of selfishness, it is an act of honesty. It is the day you stop apologizing for needing rest, for wanting peace, for protecting your heart from what drains it. For a long time, you may have believed that love means sacrifice, that caring means carrying everyone else's emotions while ignoring your own. You were taught to be strong, to endure, to stay quiet when something hurt. But self-love teaches you a different language. It teaches you that love should not cost you your well-being, your joy, or your identity. Choosing yourself without guilt is learning to say no without explaining your pain to those who refuse to understand it. It is trusting that your feelings are valid even when they make others uncomfortable. It is stepping back when something feels wrong, instead of forcing yourself to stay just to be accepted. This choice is not loud, it is calm, rooted in self-respect. In this love story, boundaries are not walls, they are doors that open only for what is kind. Choosing yourself means allowing distance from what hurts, even if it once felt familiar. It means understanding that you do not owe everyone access to your energy, your time, or your heart. Love does not demand constant self-abandonment. Guilt often appears when you begin to honor yourself, because you are breaking old patterns. You are no longer available for what diminishes you. Self-love holds your hand through that guilt and reminds you that choosing peace is not betrayal. It is alignment with who you truly are. When you choose yourself, you begin to notice a shift. You feel lighter, clearer, more connected to your own needs. You stop chasing approval and start nurturing your inner world. This choice teaches you that you are responsible for your happiness, not for meeting impossible expectations. Choosing yourself without guilt is a promise you make in private, a vow to care for your heart the way you have cared for others. It is choosing rest when you are tired, silence when you are overwhelmed, and honesty when you are tempted to pretend. In this love story, choosing yourself becomes an act of daily devotion, soft but unbreakable. Every love story carries wounds, and the love story of self-love is no different. Healing is an act of love because it requires patience, tenderness, and courage. It begins the moment you stop running from your pain and start sitting beside it, listening instead of judging. Healing is not about fixing yourself, it is about understanding yourself with compassion. For a long time, you may have worn your scars like secrets, hiding them behind strength and smiles. You learned to move forward without looking back, believing that ignoring pain meant overcoming it. But self-love gently teaches you that unhealed wounds do not disappear, they wait. Healing invites you to turn toward what hurts and say, I see you, and I will not abandon you. In this love story, healing is slow and deeply personal. There is no timeline, no comparison, no finish line. Some days you feel strong, other days fragile, and both are part of the process. Healing is allowing yourself to grieve what you lost, the love you did not receive, the version of yourself that learned to survive too early. It is giving yourself permission to feel everything you once pushed away. Healing is also forgiveness, not as a gift to those who hurt you, but as relief for your own heart. It is releasing the weight of resentment that keeps you tied to the past. Forgiving yourself is just as important, especially for the choices you made when you were hurting, afraid, or unaware. Self-love holds space for your mistakes and reminds you that growth often begins in imperfection. When you choose healing, you choose to break cycles. You stop repeating patterns that once felt familiar but no longer feel safe. You learn to respond instead of react, to pause instead of explode, to protect your peace instead of proving your pain. Healing reshapes your inner world, teaching you how to feel safe within yourself. In the love story of self-love, healing is a daily practice. It shows up in small acts of care, in honest reflection, in choosing gentleness when you want to be harsh with yourself. It is learning to trust your heart again, even after it has been broken. Healing is loving yourself enough to become whole in your own time, without shame, without fear, without rushing who you are becoming. Every love story you enter is influenced by the love you have already built within yourself. Self-love redefines relationships because it changes what you seek, what you accept, and what you walk away from. When you love yourself, love is no longer about filling emptiness, it becomes about sharing wholeness. Before self-love, relationships can feel like rescue missions. You may confuse intensity with connection, attention with affection, and consistency with commitment. You may stay where you are not valued simply because being alone feels heavier than being hurt. But self-love quietly rewrites these beliefs. It teaches your heart that love should feel safe, steady, and nourishing, not confusing or painful. With self-love, your standards rise naturally. Not because you think you are better than others, but because you understand your worth. You stop tolerating disrespect disguised as honesty and distance disguised as independence. You begin to notice how someone treats your time, your feelings, and your boundaries, and you listen when something feels off instead of silencing yourself. Self-love also changes how you show up in relationships. You stop overgiving to earn love and stop shrinking to keep peace. You communicate more honestly, not from fear of loss, but from respect for yourself. You learn that love does not require you to abandon your needs or compromise your values. In loving yourself, you become more present, more authentic, and more emotionally available. Relationships rooted in self-love are not free from conflict, but they are grounded in respect. You choose partners and connections who are willing to grow, to listen, and to take responsibility. You understand that love is not about perfection, but about effort, accountability, and care. Self-love teaches you that walking away from what hurts is sometimes the deepest form of self-respect. In this love story, you stop chasing love that runs and stop proving your worth to those who refuse to see it. You recognize that real love does not require constant explanation or emotional exhaustion. Self-love allows you to receive love without suspicion and give love without losing yourself. When self-love redefines relationships, you realize that being alone is not a failure, and being chosen is not a prize. The true connection is one where both hearts meet freely, not out of fear or need, but out of mutual respect and emotional safety, where love feels like a partnership rather than a struggle for survival. Some love stories are brief, some are intense, and some change with time, but the love story you live with yourself is the only one that stays from beginning to end. A lifelong romance with your soul is built slowly, through moments of awareness, choice, and quiet commitment. It is not dramatic or loud, it is steady, intimate, and deeply personal. This romance begins when you stop treating yourself like a stranger. You start paying attention to your emotions, your thoughts, your needs. You learn what brings you peace and what steals it away. Loving your soul means honoring your truth, even when it is inconvenient, even when it sets you apart. It is choosing authenticity over performance, depth over approval. In this love story, loyalty means staying with yourself during difficult seasons. When life feels heavy and uncertainty clouds your direction, self-love is the hand you hold. You do not abandon yourself for distractions or numbness, you stay present, even in discomfort. This devotion teaches you resilience, not through force, but through gentleness. A lifelong romance with your soul also means evolving together. You allow yourself to change without guilt. You release old versions of yourself with gratitude instead of shame. Growth becomes an act of love, not a rejection of who you were. You learn to trust your inner voice, to follow intuition, and to forgive yourself when you lose your way. This romance deepens through care. Through rest when you are tired, honesty when you are confused, and compassion when you fall short. You stop speaking to yourself with cruelty and start offering encouragement. The way you talk to yourself becomes softer, more patient, more understanding, like lovers who have learned each other's language over time. When you are in love with your soul, you no longer seek completion outside yourself. You welcome connection, but you are not dependent on it. You enjoy your own company, your own silence, your own becoming. This love teaches you how to be alone without loneliness and connected without losing yourself. A lifelong romance with your soul is not about constant happiness, it is about deep acceptance. It is choosing to stand by yourself in every chapter, in joy and in pain, in clarity and in confusion. It is the quiet promise you renew every day, to treat your heart with care, to live honestly, and to remain devoted to who you truly are.